Welcome to Grace in the Shadows. This is Dr. Marla Behler and
Dr. J.
Dr. Jonathan Behler. Well, hello, everybody. Hope you are doing well. We're getting close to the end of 2024 and about to jump into 2025. Can you believe it?
I can't believe it.
This year's passed by really fast.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Absolutely. And a lot of good things have happened this year. I want to give a quick shout out to Falmouth, Kentucky. We're so thankful to have you listening. We really appreciate it. So I have a couple of jokes for you.
That's it.
But first, let's say that you can check us out at graceintheshadowsor.org. You can call us at 251-244-4645, or you can email us at drjonathan at graceintheshadowsor.org. Since I started doing the jokes, I forget what I'm doing. I told my kids they can be anything they want when they grow up as long as it's not taller than me. But it didn't work out because Gabriel's taller than me.
Okay.
You didn't like that one.
Interesting.
Okay. What did the accountant say while making breakfast for her kids?
Not sure.
This whole parenting thing is really taxing.
Okay, yes.
All right.
Let's get into some serious stuff. On this day in December 31st, 1879, Thomas Edison gave the first public demonstration of an electric incandescent lamp.
And this is 1231, right?
1879.
1879. Cool.
Yeah. Thomas Edison's not that old.
12.
No.
Yeah.
1946, President Harry S. Truman officially proclaimed the end of hostilities in World War II.
Nice.
Yeah. Let's see here. Oh, do we have anything else? 1961, the Marshall Plan expired after distributing more than $12 billion in foreign aid. Go figure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. So what's our topic today?
We're going to talk about attachment theory.
Okay.
It basically suggests or refers that early relationships really mold us, shape us, and how we become, how we connect with other relationships throughout our lives, our spouse, kids,
nice,
our friends. And basically, attachment theory was kind of established in 20th century.
Okay.
And there's really four primary attachment styles: secure, anxious, avoidant, disorganized.
Okay.
And we're also going to throw in some biblical illustrations of these.
Perfect.
Should be pretty interesting.
Let's do it.
So the first one is the secure attachment style. Have you?
Okay.
And this is the healthy one. This is the one you want to be.
Okay.
Characteristics of secure attachment style: comfortable with intimacy, emotional closeness, able to form trusting and stable relationships, has positive views of themselves and others, and communicate openly and manage emotions healthily.
Mm-hmm.
And disagreements too, arguments. They can disagree in a healthy way. And a biblical example of this would be Samuel.
Okay.
And Samuel, interesting enough, was basically 1 Samuel chapter 1, 19 through 11, and chapters 1 through 3. Samuel was raised by his mother, Hannah, and Eli the priest.
Right.
He's a great example. I think he's a very good example because he was given to the temple. He's given to God at a young age, and he experienced consistent love, guidance from mother and Eli, and his relationship with God, I think, was marked by trust and response to God's calling and openness.
Makes sense. I would say there's not a lot of people in the world, not a huge amount that have this attachment style. What do you think?
I think that there's more than we think. I think there's also, having said that, there's not a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
How did his parents shape him? I think Hannah's devotion.
Yes.
Her faith, her dedication to God, her decision to dedicate Samuel to the Lord after his birth likely provided this love and intimacy that he needed. Eli was not a good priest by any means, but I think the stability and the openness of really nurturing him at that time, despite his abilities as a priest.
Well, right. And Eli even nurtured Samuel better than he did his own sons. So if you don't know that story, definitely check that out.
Yeah, because his own sons, they lived a really riotous life.
Yeah. So interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
And the next one is a anxious or preoccupied attachment style.
Okay.
This is not healthy.
No.
Some characteristics of the anxious attachment style: a fear of abandonment or rejection, emotional dependency on others, validation, reassurance, anxiousness, often overthinking of or analyzing relationships, highly sensitive to perceived threats or rejection or neglect.
Right.
Example of this is Rachel, Jacob's wife.
Oh, okay.
In Genesis chapter 29 and 30, Rachel is the beloved wife of Jacob. She struggles with feelings of inadequacy, fear of abandonment, especially because of her inability to have children.
Right.
While her sister Leah was very fruitful.
Yeah.
And this created a lot of emotional dependency, jealousy, insecurity in the marriage.
Definitely.
How did her parents shape her? Laban's favoritism, I think, played a huge part.
I'm sure.
Indeed. How do you think it did?
I think, well, she, she was very, well, she was supposed to marry him, and then Leah was given instead. So that would definitely bring up some anxiousness and insecurity, because you think you're going to be marrying somebody and then your sister's put in the place. And also when she does have children, she pits them against each other.
And Laban showed favoritism towards her.
Yeah.
By deceiving Jacob into marrying Leah.
Right. Yeah. But it kind of backfired with her. Even he thought he was doing the right thing in giving Leah instead of her, but I think it made her more insecure.
I think it did too.
Yeah.
And, Jacob's love for Rachel likely reinforced her attachment of anxiety.
Right.
The intense desire to be loved.
Yes.
I think probably was something she struggled with.
Absolutely.
Her entire life.
Agreed.
And the distress over her inability to bear children.
Yeah.
I think was heightened her anxious attachment.
I think so.
Yeah.
I agree.
Avoid it. Dismissive attachment style.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay. This one is the characteristics of the avoidant or dismissive. Difficulty with intimacy, emotional closeness, strong desire for independence, sometimes to the point of emotional withdrawal, tends to suppress emotions and avoid vulnerability.
Interesting.
Yeah. So this is something I think is more common than we think, especially with guys.
Right.
Reluctancy to rely on others and express needs. I think guys do this a lot more because we're kind of programmed in our society like that.
Yeah, agreed. I agree.
The biblical example here would be King Saul. 1 Samuel 9 through 31.
That makes sense.
Yeah. King Saul's story illustrates avoidant attachment style. I think difficulty trusting others, including his close advisor Samuel and his own son Jonathan.
Well, even the fact that he hid when they were looking for him to be crowned king.
Oh, yeah.
That shows he was avoiding the whole scenario. So I can see that. And he didn't want people to be close to him because then they would know his heart. And his heart was kind of cold. And he would avoid people because of that, I think.
And his jealousy of David, the emotional withdrawal demonstrated, I think, reluctance to form that trusting relationship with David.
And he thought it would be easier to get rid of him than to get close to him.
I think in Saul's early life and leadership that he was initially anointed by God to be king, but in regards to his relationship with God and his people was marked by independence. He would try to sacrifice when the priest wasn't there. He would try to do his own thing instead of following God's plan.
Right.
And I think that this really created this instability in Saul's life.
I agree.
I think while Saul's specific parents are not detailed in the Bible, his actions, I think, kind of infer a background that may lack emotional warmth or healthy attachment models, probably inconsistency with his caregivers, I think.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. So, I think this is something when you're looking at this is all these can be reversed.
They can be. They can be. We can't just say, well, this is how I am, so this is how I'm going to stay. I mean, when we see things in ourselves that aren't necessarily the best, we can take it to God and we can ask for his help with it. And if we earnestly seek him and work through these things, sometimes with a Christian counselor like yourself,
yes,
it can really help us to overcome these things that aren't positive.
And generally speaking, the temperament and personalities don't change.
No.
I mean, you can change elements to where you're not as
anxious
or not as persnickety, maybe. Or
right.
Shy.
Yeah. Right.
But you don't really change that part. But with attachment styles, you can change.
Yeah.
And I think really focusing in on the secure attachment style.
Yeah.
And becoming more secure, being cognizant, being humble, and admitting your shortcomings.
I agree. And God can help with that. And what we just have to take it to prayer.
Absolutely. Last but not least is the disorganized, fearful, avoidant attachment style. And this one's interesting.
Yeah.
The characteristics of a disorganized attachment style, it doesn't necessarily mean you're disorganized, by the way.
Okay.
This is just, I don't know who added that. I mean, basically, it's a combination of anxious and avoidant behaviors.
That makes sense. Yeah, combination of the two. Yeah.
Fear of intimacy, but a desire for intimacy at the same time.
Oh, wow.
Erratical emotional responses, sometimes seeking connection, but other times pushing someone away radically. Difficulty trusting others due to past trauma or neglect. And I think this is, I see this quite a lot.
Yeah.
In counseling.
Do you?
Because of the nature of it. And
right.
A lot of people are going through trauma.
Yeah.
And when you go through trauma, you want that connectedness, but you don't.
Yeah, it's kind of like you're warring inside yourself. You want to stay away from everybody, but yet you really want to get that help, and so you're fighting against yourself.
And I think the perfect example from the Bible is Peter.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, how he said he would never deny Christ, and he denies Christ, and then, he's so ashamed when Jesus comes to him.
He wanted a relationship, and he didn't.
Right.
He was going back and forth. Yep. And we don't know much about his life, but he was a fisherman as far as his parents go.
Right.
And so we can infer that his impulsive emotions, reactions to stress, pressure, probably stem from a mixture of deeply rooted emotional attachment issues.
Agreed.
Internal conflict, following Jesus. His parents were probably inconsistent.
Right.
They probably were abusive in some ways. I can't say thus saith the Lord.
No, but it makes sense.
Verbally, maybe even physically.
Who knows? Yeah.
And so we can see that here.
Yeah.
When you're looking at how to fix this,
right?
I think learning to become secure.
Yes.
Understanding how you can become a secure attachment style, which comes first by finding your identity in Christ.
Right. You have to have that personal relationship first, and then that can help you gain that security because you have that relationship with Jesus.
100%. Because if you had a traumatic childhood,
right,
inconsistency, trauma, abuse, you have to find your identity in Christ.
Yes, you do.
You have to find who you are.
Right.
You're not a mistake. You're not an accident.
Right.
You're not. You have a Father who's perfect.
Yes, which is amazing.
Yeah. And you have, maybe your blood relatives want nothing to do with you.
Right.
Or they're abusive or whatever, but you have a family of God.
Yes.
That love Jesus and, that you will be with them for eternity.
Absolutely. And so if you have family like that, find a community that you can trust and lean on like you want to with your family, and they can become your family.
But if someone says, so Dr. J, I'm struggling with this anxious attachment style, or any of them,
right?
Excluding secure, that's what you want to be,
right.
What do I do? And I tell them, focus on a secure attachment style. Find someone that you observe is secure,
okay,
and observe them.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, and study about your attachment style. I mean, Google it, do some research, and by doing that, you can learn where you're short, where you're struggling, and you can become more secure.
Right. You can turn those weaknesses into strengths.
Absolutely.
You can figure out how to do that by doing those things. Yeah. That's good.
And this is another way how God can take a mess, turn to a message for his glory, for your good.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Really appreciate it. Have a great day. Goodbye.